Hello and welcome to this overview of our product Security and Access Manager for Salesforce. Thanks for making the time in your busy schedules. I know there's never a dull day on a Salesforce project, so appreciate you taking the time to watch our demo. So just before we dive into the demo, I just want to take a couple of minutes to explain to you a bit about the business problem we solve. But I'm conscious of time, so I'll keep this down to a couple of minutes and then we'll dive straight into the demo. So firstly, the business problem we solve. I've worked in Salesforce for amazingly over 10 years now, working in different parts of the Salesforce ecosystem. And one of the things that I found is that Salesforce has such an incredibly flexible security and permissions model that you can deliver really complex security and permission setups to meet your different business stakeholders and business units. But as a result, permissions can become complex and time consuming to manage. So about 3.5 years ago, we started developing this product and it's been enhanced ever since. Really the purpose was to make it easier to get a transparent view of your permission setup today, and then update permissions en masse rather than having to go into every profile and permission set, etc. But really, permissions can become complex and time consuming to manage. Our product is designed to take that effort away, and also permissions constantly evolve. So day one of your implementation, you might have a really clearly defined permission setup, but in a matter of weeks, you could be onboarding new business units and new stakeholders, and your permissions need to constantly evolve to support those new business objectives. Permissions are really important. It's something that administrators don't really get much credit for. I think the stakeholders just really expect permissions to work, and they don't understand the effort involved in managing these complex permission setups. But if you get permissions wrong, it undermines the value that you're delivering in your Salesforce project. So, for example, you could be delivering the coolest new functionality to your salespeople, but if the sales director has wrong numbers in their pipeline because they haven't got access to the right records because of the permission setup, it can really undermine the value that you're delivering and damage the reputation of the project. And then on top of that, we've got the elephant in the room, which is really the risk of data legislation fines and data breaches. So really, we designed the product to take the effort out of managing permissions, to make your permission setup more secure and allow you to get back to leveraging the power of the Salesforce platform, adding value to your stakeholders, and supporting your business objectives. So a little bit about the product. We're dedicated to Salesforce permissions management. The app is 100% native and built on the Force.com platform. Before we can be listed on the Salesforce App Exchange, Salesforce actually review our code, make sure there's nothing malicious in there, and that we're adhering to Salesforce best coding practices. When you install Security and Access Manager, it sits as a hosted package within your environment, and there's no kind of desktop install or key management. Really, why that's important is it means that the package sits in your environment and it's protected by all the existing Salesforce security. We don't receive any data from your system. It sits in your package, totally sits in your environment, totally contained. The product that you're seeing today is based on 3.5 years worth of dev, and the product's now evolving based on customer feedback, and there's lots more product coming. So let me leave it there in terms of the slides. I'm just going to stop sharing and start sharing my other screen. Let's just do this. So let me just go into Salesforce. So the first tab we're going to look at is Object Access. So the purpose of this tab is really to, in seconds, give you a holistic view of your CRUD setup. So I'm going to select some profiles and permission sets on the left here. And then if I hit go, it returns me my permissions. At this point, we're just looking at the account object. But let's say I want to look at all of my objects. Actually, just let me take a few more profiles and permission sets so you can see a bit more data on the screen. and I'm going to select my objects for export to Excel. So I'm going to take the account object, the case object, let's say leads an opportunity. And if I hit export to Excel, this gives me my data in an Excel spreadsheet. So red means that they haven't got the permission, green means I have the permission. We've got our profiles and permission sets down the left and our CRUD rights along the top. There's a bit of audit control, so the audit was exported from the company name, the date the export name it's exported by. And then if we click on the different tabs, you can see how the permission setup is changing across the different objects. So after getting a clear view of your permissions, you might want to make some changes. So here, just looking at this, I might not want any of my users to be able to delete anything. So let's take away those delete rights. Maybe actually the finance profile should be able to delete, and then maybe HR shouldn't have view on the file. So I'll take those away. I'll give it a description of change. So met with stakeholder, reviewed and amended account permissions. So then I hit save, and this applies our changes directly into the database. So you can see in a matter of seconds, I've just made a lot of changes to my permissions without the need to go into every single profile permission set. When we hit save, it also creates a log. So if I select the previous log, this shows us the change in our permissions today compared to the date of the log, which was the 8th of June 2020. And this is telling us any differences between our permission setup today and the date of the log. So this is saying that on the 8th of June, the finance profile did have modify all, whereas today they don't. And there's some other changes down here. The beauty of this log functionality is that we can then revert our changes back. I've done it myself. I thought I'm making a small change in production that won't affect anyone. I look at my support tickets half an hour later and I've got 10 users complaining that something's changed. So what this revert changes functionality allows you to do is very quickly revert your changes back. So that's revert our changes back to where they were before I made the change. That allows you to kind of go back to users and say, there was an issue with the permissions, but it's been resolved. And then once the pressure's off, you can understand what went wrong and then reapply your changes with the pressure off. So we've got some other filtering on here. So you can either look at custom and standard Salesforce objects or your managed package objects. You might want to look at just your custom or standard Salesforce permission sets or your managed package profiles and permission sets, or you just might want all profiles and permission sets. This filtering is quite handy. Some managed packages come with a massive amount of permission sets now, like for example, Financial Force, that comes with hundreds of permissions. So this filtering just allows you to very quickly hone in on the data that you want to see. Next tab we're going to look at is objects and fields. So we've locked down our object level CRUD. The next thing we might want to do is look at our field level security. So I'm going to select some profiles and permission sets again. Hit go, and this returns me firstly my object level CRUD for the profile. But then if I click the drill down, this shows me the field level security. And again, we can amend it from this screen and hit save. Or I just want to hone in on some of the specific features of this tab because it's very similar in terms of functionality to the previous tab. But really, one of the great features of this is we've got this tick all button. So if we tick all the fields, there's edit. We can then open all the fields up to be editable. This is really useful if you have an interfaces notoriously fall over due to field level security. This allows you to open up all access to all fields for an interface user. and bring your interface back up online if it's gone down. And then if you needed to then lock the field level security down again afterwards, you can do, but because it's an integration user, it's probably not a real user, you can probably leave all the fields open as header. Most of the other functionality here in terms of the filtering is the same. Actually, I think I'll just quickly show you the export functionality. So let me just grab some profiles and permission sets again. Hit go, click my drop down, and then I'll just export this to Excel. Just quickly show you this, it's very powerful. It shows you how you can get your field level security out of the system in seconds. So in this report, we've got our object name on the left, we've got our field names in the second column, our object CRUD rights summarized at the top, and then we have a column for read and edit, which shows you who can read and edit which fields. So this is showing us that the finance profile can update the account number field so they can read it and they can edit it. The HR profile can only read it, they can't edit it. So very quickly, you've got a holistic view of your field level security. So going back into Salesforce, the next tab I want to look at is record access. So really, we designed this tab because as a system administrator, you might get a support ticket in from a user that wants to know why someone can access a record but they can't. So let me just grab this demo opportunity ID. Firstly, I'm going to look at why I as a user can access this record. So I've pasted my opportunity ID in here, then I hit go, and this returns me all the reasons why I as a user can access this record. So on my user profile, I've got modifiable data, modifiable records, view all records. It's shared with the role with Confair, who's in the role sales manager, which rolls up to my role. So I've got access through the role hierarchy as well. It's in 2 territories, Europe and United States, so you might want to look at that. There might be a problem with the setup, and it sits in the middle of the Atlantic. We've also got some public group sharing setting going on. So we've got a dodgy sharing setting that says if the opportunity name isn't equal to XYZ, share it with the role CEO. So very quickly, I've got a holistic view of why a user can access a record. And then if let's say we compare this to Columns access, open up another tab, paste in the ID, select Column as the user, hit go. And this shows me Columns access. So Columns got a much more reduced level of access to my access. And then if you needed to know why a user can't access a record, what we recommend doing is we can't query it because they can't access it, so there's nothing to query. So what we recommend doing is find the user that can do. So for example, Susie might call up, she works in the same sales role as Colm, and she wants to understand, and she can't access a record. So we suggest you query the user that can, the user that can't, and then the difference will be 9 times out of 10 what you have to give the user that can't access. So moving on to the next tab, this is the dictionary tab. So there's really 2 purposes to this tab. So firstly, the first thing a system administrator learns when doing an ADM course or a Trailhead course is that when you create a field, give it a description and help text, and then no one ever does it. So then after a few months, you might have had system admins that have been and left the business, maybe consultancies have been in and out, and the system's not documented. So this tab just gives you a very quick way of updating your description and help text from one simple screen. The action might be, so this description field is what we as system administrators see, the help text is what the user sees. So as you're working on this as a team, you might put an action in the description field to say, you think we can probably delete this field as Dave created it 2 years ago. No one knows what the field does, but Ralph is taking an action to follow up to see if we can delete it before we do. The other beauty of this report is this highlighted data tab, highlighted data field. So you can use this to highlight data across your CRM. The use case for this is we actually created this for a customer a couple of years ago that wanted to track where their data was for they needed to report on for a GDPR report. So really you can use it to highlight data. So that could be personal information that you keep on your customers, such as address or date of birth, or it could be company confidential information, such as key financials or confidential financials that you really need to make sure are only exposed to the right users. And once you've highlighted it as sensitive data, we can then produce a report that shows you where all this sensitive data is across your whole CRM. So here this is showing me the highlighted data across our whole CRM. So it's showing me that I've highlighted some data on the account object, the opportunity object, and the campaign object. The other great thing about this tab is that once you've been to the effort of entering in your description and help text, we can then create profile-specific data dictionaries. So the use case of this might be that you get a support ticket in from a user saying, we're not sure what this field does. Well, you can then select the user's profile. Let's say, for example, take the legal one. And this shows us just the fields that the legal profile can edit. Oh, sorry, just the fields that the legal profile can view. You can then select the objects for export to Excel. So I'll take the account object, the case object, and take a couple more, take lead and opportunity. I can then export this to Excel, and it gives me a dictionary of all the fields that user can access. So it's showing us that the legal profile can access 25 fields on the account object, and then you can see their fields across the different objects here. So the great thing is that this means you can produce documentation in seconds. So let's say you are delivering training to a new finance team. You could then leave the training session and say, finance users, this is what all your fields do, and you've got documentation that you can produce in seconds. Some companies have corporate policies where they're meant to put all their documentation up on SharePoint, which is fine. We recommend you update the information actually in your CRM, and then if you do need to produce the documentation and put it up on SharePoint or some knowledge base that you have internally, you can just select the system admin profile and it will give you all of your fields documented. So we also work in Classic. I myself still prefer Classic when I'm doing system admin type stuff. So let me just show you a couple of tabs in Classic. So this Intel tab is really a set of data dumps and reports that we've built through our experience delivering our health check services to our customers. Some of our customers asked us to engage with them and actually run a security audit for them. So as we run these security audits, we're producing data dump reports that allow you to audit different parts of the system in seconds. So, for example, this first report, the report folder shares report, it can be a real pain to try and understand which users can access which report folders. In essence, you have to click into every one and write down their settings. This report folder shares reports allows you to get the data dump of all of the report folders you have in your CRM and then the sharing rules around them. This is one of our dev boxes, so there's not that much info in here, but you can see for example, this database report folder. There's a sharing setting on it that gives view access to the role of sales executive. So yeah, and then I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I'm just conscious of time, but there's a whole load of different reports you can run here, like for example, the install packages report. that's a new one that was requested by one of our customers, where they wanted to understand how many of their installed packages licenses were actually being used. So for example, you might have 100 Congo Courier licenses. If they're only using, if only 60 of those licenses are being used, then you've got a cost saving of 40% there. So this install packages report just allows you to get that information in seconds. So I think we'll leave it there, just conscious of time. There's lots more functionality. This is really a whirlwind overview of the product. We'd love to speak to you direct. If you are interested in learning more and seeing some more functionality, please either drop us an email or reach out via the website or connect with us on LinkedIn. Thanks very much for your time, and hope to hear from you soon.